starting to see conspiracy theorists or truthers being associated with the groups of people or types of people or people with the mindset of blaming everything on Muslims and Jews and depending on the situation, blacks and Mexicans, right? And I think that they're really muddying up that group of people. I think that, or the conspiracy theory, which is basically a truther, and a conspiracy theory is basically something, a person who, for one, questions the official story, or or kind of digs deeper into something, an event or what have you, and instead of looking at the surface or believing everything that we're told. So, but I'll give you a good example. I've seen a couple posts regarding, people's sentiment about what happened in Notre Dame, to the cathedral, right? And, and it was an article saying conspiracy theorists blame Muslims and Jews. And it's like, okay. To me, the people in general, whether it's here or abroad or what have you, people who tend to do that aren't truthers. They're still, because a truther, a lot of people who are dubbed conspiracy theorists, for example, I'll take the Notre Dame Cathedral burning. They're not looking at it, oh, it's the Muslims, it's the Jews, or because, well, I take that back. We're not in the way in which it's being portrayed like, oh, like in America, for example, how we, oh, the Muslims, and they're, that racist sentiment, right? Now, as far as the Jews are concerned, there is not in the same way as, some of these white folks here, in the context in which they say it. It's more of, you know, um, the Zionist movement, as far as the Zionists, and in that respect of being, a Jewish, and how they're destroying, countries and nations, and they're, when tying them to, new world order and conflict underlying, being like the money man and things like that, not in the context of which what I'm hearing, which is like the same old rhetoric. And I know that a lot of truthers believe um, that, if you're a real truther, you're gonna question everything. First of all, and that half the things that take place are blamed on Muslims, or blamed on blacks, or blamed on Mexicans. But we know that the real ones know that it's deeper than that. It's who's pushing it. For example, Mexico, and what's happening at our borders. You have the hillbillies, is what I call them, or white folks that are gonna be like, oh, they're taking their jobs, da, 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 da. But then we're going to have this real truther is gonna be like, okay, so who's who's giving these people supplies, and who's who's behind all of this and this migration, and up into our country to destabilize it so that we can fall. No, it's the elitists, it's not the Mexicans. We know that the Mexicans or people that are coming through Mexico are being used. So what I'm saying is, we don't, the real ones aren't just like, oh yes, the Mexicans, and can't, and so blindly hatred is so blind that they can't see beyond, like, who's the puppet master, whether it's, the Bezos and the Bilderbergs and whatever, that are mastermind behind all of these things. So let me be clear with when I say that the ones that sit up and, it's everybody's, it's the niggers' fault, it's the Mexicans, it's the Muslims. Those are not real conspiracy theorists or truthers. You might, they're along the lines of patriots types, racists, you know, uh, affiliations with KKKs and all those types of groups that spawn out of that, and whatever boys, Proud Boys, all that new stuff that's out, right? Aryan Nation, whatever, right? There's Please separate them from the real truthers and people who are are dubbed conspiracy theorists, because they know that even from the founding of this nation, that it was the same setup. It was elitists that had an agenda that they came here with, and they executed when they founded the country, and the country was founded by Masons and Jesuits and things like that. So the real ones know what's really going on, and let's start separating these people, because what's happening is the people that aren't in the circle, that believes everything's rosy and all our vaccinations or vaccines are good, and whatever the doctors say is okay, and whatever our government says is okay, it's okay, and our food is nothing wrong with our food, and oh by golly, I'm gonna go to work and pay my taxes, and I'm gonna go on a vacation, and why would they lie? They have no reason to lie. Like those sleeping sheeple, they're muddying up, and it might be they're muddying up the whole the definition, but it also might be now infiltrators, because just like they do in other cases of peoples and things like that, and in groups, and that they have, especially with African Americans in this country, they've always infiltrated it and then messed it up to where they discredited the organization, or they killed the people, or they caused conflict internally. So it could be that, as well as we have some posers, some some fakers, some people that are not really truthers, but posing to kind of put out misinformation to make real truthers look even like racists, because like I said, we're not. And I consider myself to be a truther, because I'm not, though I know that there are racial issues, but I also know that I understand the underlining, who the puppet master is, put it like that. What's the underlining in history? And I don't just stop at, a certain point in history that is favorable to me, or and I can look at the bigger picture. I know what's going on as far as how what's my race in this country. I know being black in this country, and I understand those issues, internally, and how externally, how the system, it being black against the system, that no powers that be, but also can see the bigger picture, the global picture, the the elite agenda, eugenics, all these other things that overshadow. And so therefore I understand, like, racism is a tool by the elitists to keep the people divided amongst each other, all the tongues, the tribes divided, right? The tongues divided, so that we are so blind that we have blind hatred, that we just fighting each other over color and religion, so that then they could put their plan into play, and and they phases, different phases over the centuries, and now they come to a threshold where they're about to, quite frankly, split the humanity into two, coming up here in a couple decades. Here it'll be some new things, okay? But in order to rebuild, you must destroy order out of chaos, and always remember that. So I just wanted to put this out here real quick, that it's if you on that hate shit, if you on that, I can understand the stance of, like, oh, the Mexicans are coming in here, and they're because and but why? I don't stop at, I do believe, like, yeah, if you illegal, you shouldn't be here, and how that's going to collapse our economy if these people keep coming in here, and but I understand who's behind that, and the things that were happening 10, 20, 30 years ago with some of these southern South American nations, and how well what we did in order to now have what's happening now happening, so I can, so yeah, just Call them out, man. I'm telling you, you're not a truther. You're not a conspiracy theorist. You're probably just a old fashioned bigot and racist.